What's up, family? So, would it really take him pulling the trigger for y'all to finally wake up? Because at this point, that's what it's looking like. We have a man out here who straight up fantasize about killing a sitting politician and his little children. Not in some joking way, not out of context, but in his own written words, and somehow the Democrats are still acting like it's no big deal. Abigail Spanberger, the so called voice of reason, the moderate, just sat there during that debate with Winsome Spears, because this is the Virginia debate running for governor. And we'll get into the man that I'm talking about, who is running for attorney general, known as Jay Jones. And like I said, Abigail Spanberger, who's supposed to be the voice, so-called voice of reason, the moderate, just sat there to debate with a blank look on her face, like somehow somebody unplugged her from reality. Not 1 ounce of outrage, not even a whisper of condemnation. And she's running to be governor, not a hall monitor at a political summer camp. Where's the backbone? You know what I'm saying? See, that's the problem with today's Democratic Party. There's no moral compass. There's no line they won't cross, and no evil they won't tolerate as long as it comes with a blue sticker next to it. And you can advocate for violence, push for chaos, tear down borders, and destroy the nuclear family, and they still call you progressive. But God forbid you say you believe in biological sex, or that parents should have a say in their children's education, then you're suddenly dangerous. And they flip morality upside down and sold it as compassion. And it's one of the most destructive cons in modern politics. Now let's talk about Winsome Earle-Sears. This is the woman to the right in the red suit, as you guys see on the screen. This woman came ready for battle. She didn't show up to smile and play nice. She came to expose the hypocrisy, and she did it without flinching. And I'll admit, when I first saw her interrupting Spanberger, I thought, hold up, let the woman talk. But then you realize Spanberger didn't have anything to say anyway. She was just stalling, dancing around the truth, trying to make herself sound moderate while standing on far left policies. And Winsome was done playing that polite DC game, and she hit her with truth after truth. And you can see the discomfort all over Spanberger's face.
So we know that biological men are larger in strength than women. We understand this. This is biology. If you look at football teams, you can see the difference between males and females. This is not hard. And that's why I'm asking my opponent, if your little girl comes home and said she was forced to undress in a locker room with a biological boy, what would you say? She's crying. What would you say? Are you not going to answer?
Ms.
So
All right, now check out the next clip, family.
I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian before I'm a Republican, and I'm required to forgive people. And it's hard sometimes when somebody has abused you, etc., but it's something you must do, because not to forgive is almost like, as someone said, you drink poison thinking that it's going to affect the other person. And I want to live a decent life, and I don't want to not have peace in my life. And so as I've said before, I would not say that. So that's why I'm wondering why my opponent won't say, beyond it's abhorrent and disgusting, why she won't say it is not okay and that he must leave the race, because Jay Jones advocated the murder, Abigail, the murder of a man, a former speaker, as well as his children who were 2 and 5 years old. You have little girls. What would it take him pulling the trigger? Is that what would do it? And then you would say he needs to get out of the race? Abigail, you have nothing to say? Abigail, what if he said it about your 3 children? Is that when you would say he should get out of the race, Abigail?
And you can see the discomfort all over Spanberger's face as she sit there basically stone like a statue.
You're running to be governor.
Well, family, I want to show you guys, just to recall the Jay Jones situation, just to give you guys up to par for individuals who may not know about it. I want you guys to check out in regards to the matter of Jay Jones and what happened, as this is the man who's running for Attorney General in Virginia, as you heard Winsome Earle-Sears say, look, Miss Spanberger, you're sitting here saying you denounce what he said, but that doesn't mean you would tell him to step down and not run for Attorney General anymore. So you have to endorse it because you're not telling him to step down.
The text messages have thrust an already tight race into the national spotlight. While Jay Jones admits his words were wrong, he still plans to stay in the race.
That language has no place in our discourse, and I am so remorseful for what happened.
Jones sent the messages in 2022 when he was in Virginia's House of Delegates to Republican colleague Delegate Kerry Coyner. In referring to then Republican House Speaker Todd Gilbert, Jones says, quote, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. He goes on saying, quote, spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. Coyner asked Jones to stop. He then later called her to further explain his reasoning, at one point suggesting that Gilbert's wife, Jennifer Wishon, should watch her 2 young children die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views. Coyner then hung up on Jones. He again began texting, and when she pushed back, he responded, quote, I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes.
This is demented. And here we have the Democrat candidate running for Attorney General, the top cop in Virginia, wishing not only that he had 2 bullets to put in a guy's head, but then he wishes death on his children. And Todd Gilbert has small kids.
Republicans, including Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin and President Donald Trump, are calling for Jones to leave the race. Within his...
I mean, reasonable, right? Common sense. Why would you say this thing and think that you're going to be the top cop and law enforcement to advocate and promote law and order for the safety of individuals? Because now it has shown that you are the corruption within the system that you're trying to run for the highest position of in the state of Virginia. Because it's just common sense. If this individual has bias, and when it comes to a political standpoint, when it comes to just not having a fair race, and you're willing to take out someone, even their kids, because this is your opponent, having a fair election or a fair race and letting the people decide, would you really stand up to protect the people as Attorney General of Virginia if you have a liking or a bias in your heart? And if you happen to be biased towards one side, would you still uphold law and order and understand that law and order comes with facts and what actually happened and not your own personal bias, or let alone hidden agenda of how you're looking at things, but letting things play out? As we all know, when it comes to court processes, innocent until proven guilty, with all the evidence in a fair trial, a fair court hearing. But how can you be the top law enforcer and be fair about things if you're already corrupt within, and how you don't even want a fair election to try to cheat your way to the top, let alone kill the opponent who's running for the same position as you? You have to step down. It's no way. So this woman who you see on the screen, let's be real. The left, they cannot stand Winsome Earle-Sears. You want to know why? Because she breaks their favorite lie. And I have been told this lie growing up. The lie that all black women must think the same, vote the same, and worship at the altar of the Democrat Party. I have been told this growing up. Winsome destroys that narrative just by existing, because she's proof that being black and conservative isn't an oxymoron. It's a threat to their entire power structure, because if more minorities wake up to the fact that they've been politically manipulated and lied to for decades, the Democrats lose their strongest emotional weapon, guilt and dependency. And what made this debate so revealing wasn't just the words exchanged, it was the silence that followed. When Winsome demanded that Spanberger denounce Jay Jones and call for him to drop out, the room got cold, and you can feel it. Check it out.
Affordability. Please go to SpanbergerLies.com and check that out. I don't understand why you just can't come forward and say he needs to go. I mean, we're talking about murder. We're talking about someone's life being taken from them. Have you nothing to say about that? Are you not going to address it? Really, you can't go any further. You're a governor. You're supposed to stand up for all the people. Are you saying political murder is all right?
Ms. Spanberger, I want to give you a chance
I
to
have a
respond
rebuttal
since
to that?
she, yes.
Once
You have
again,
30 seconds.
I have denounced political violence, political rhetoric, no matter who is leading the charge. When given the opportunity, Lieutenant Governor Earle-Sears, you have not done the same.
No matter who is leading the charge
so
on
when
what?
it is important that all
When
of us set
someone
a better
showed a
example.
sign that
Mr. Earle-Sears,
said,
And so
it's difficult for us to
importantly,
hear
in
no
your
matter
water
who
fountain,
is
it took you
Ms.
a whole
providing
day to
the
say
comments
something,
Mr. Earle-Sears, we
Abigail.
need to move on,
advocating
but it's
for
difficult for
political-
us to hear.
She has
if
no
you're both
courage.
talk-
You
but it's-
cannot be governor.
The
No
audience
courage.
can't hear.
The audience can't hear when you're talking over each other, so we just want to make sure
Excuse
that we
me, I
limit
was
that
not
so
talking
people
over
can
her.
hear.
She has no courage.
We're
Okay.
going to the next topic
Yes,
now.
we are moving on to the next topic with Tom on federal workers.
Thank you, Deanna. It's been more than a week since federal lawmakers allowed the government to shut down with more
Let me
than
backtrack a little
150.
bit, family, in regards of her asking the question of Spanberger just sitting here.
Please go to, you just can't come forward and say he needs to go. I mean, we're talking about murder. We're talking about someone's life being taken from them. Have you nothing to say about that?
Nothing.
Are you not going to address?
So just because she said denounce doesn't mean that Miss Spanberger here, that's standing stone-faced with her hands folded, doesn't mean that she still doesn't endorse Jay Jones. You know, that was the question. But now I want you guys to go see in regards of Spanberger and Miss Winsome and Miss Spanberger talk about the affordability in Virginia and the shutdown.
Topic with Tom on federal workers.
Thank you. Shut down with more than 150,000 government workers. Virginia is facing the brunt of the impact. So, Ms. Earle-Sears, knowing its impact on Virginia, if you were governor now, would you ask the president to use his power to work with Democrats to reopen the government? You have 60 seconds.
So my opponent all summer long has been playing political football with federal workers by trying to say that she loves them more than anyone else. Well, let me tell you what love looks like. It looks like Abigail calling Senators Kaine and Warner and telling them, go back, do your job, and vote against the government shutdown. We only need eight Democratic senators. That's all we need. And we cannot find 8. And yet, we can find 2 in Virginia. When are you going to publicly say to Senators Kaine and Warner, go and do your job and keep federal workers working? That's the way you stop the shutdown, because right now they're having to work, and especially our military, without any pay. I'm a United States Marine veteran, and it is definitely hard, especially in the enlisted ranks, to work without pay. You can do something about that. You're the one who's been talking about all that love. Well, show love,
Ms.
keep them
Earle-Sears,
in their jobs.
Ms. Earle-Sears, the question, though, that I'm looking for, the answer to is, would you ask the president, if you were governor, to use his power to work with Democrats to reopen the government? 15 seconds to clarify.
So the president has already said that he would do that. But you know, before anything gets to the president, it's in the Senate right now. The House Republicans have voted, and it's in the Senate. And all we need for it to get to the president so the shutdown stops is 8 Senate Democrats. That's just it. 8 Senate Democrats, and we cannot find any because they're playing political football, as you have been, Abigail, all this time. Love is a verb. It's a show me. It's a doing. Love is not a shutdown. When are you going to ask Senators Kaine and Warner to please keep federal workers working?
All right, we're going to go to Ms. Spanberger next on this one. Knowing the shutdown's impact on Virginia, if you were governor now, would you urge the 2 Democratic senators to vote to reopen the government until a deal can be worked out with Republicans? You have 60 seconds.
Well, importantly, when I was in Congress, when I entered Congress, I entered during the longest government shutdown in history. And 2 weeks into my time in Congress, I went to the White House. I sat down in the Situation Room with a group of Democrats and Republicans and President Trump. Trump, urging him to come to the table, urging him to make a deal. That is how we started the path towards ending the government shutdown, with leadership from the president. The current lieutenant governor of Virginia has not stood up for Virginia workers, because right now, at this moment, when Virginia's federal workforce and contractors and communities across the Commonwealth are suffering because of this government shutdown, it is only increasing the challenge that they are facing after months and months of the attacks from this White House under DOJ. The entirety of that time, my opponent has made light of federal workers losing their jobs, saying it's not a big deal.
So just to clarify,
I don't understand, what does auditing the government to make sure that the money doesn't be spent fraudulently and actually go to the right places off of taxpayer dollars have to do with her advocating to keep the government open? But I want to go to something most importantly when it comes to making, it was about the bathrooms things, right? It was the whole situation with school policies, and then I just want to conclude there and get you guys' thoughts.
And their experience in schools. I'm also a former federal agent, and I work to investigate crimes against children. And so nothing is more important to me than the safety of all of our children. And that work, in part, has earned me the endorsement of Virginia's Police Benevolent Association.
Would you tell Steve
Ms. Earle-Sears, Ms. Spanberger is talking. Please let her finish.
On issues related to what's happening in our schools and each individual community, I think it's important that we have parents and teachers and administrators making decisions about their individual schools, not politicians. And if we are talking about the safety of our children, I would ask why my opponent continues to support efforts to defund public safety, an effort carried on continually by this administration.
Ms. Spanberger, once again, the question was, should transgender girls who are biological males be allowed to use girls' bathrooms and play on girls' sports teams in K through 12? You have 15 seconds to clarify.
In cases across Virginia, I think it's incumbent upon parents and educators and administrators in each local community to make decisions locally.
That's what this is about.
Ms. Earle-Sears?
There should never be nude men in locker
Oh my goodness, we finally have her saying that, but you voted for that.
Ms. Earle-Sears.
Have you finally
Ms.
said
Earle-Sears,
that
you are
now?
just intruding on
Are
time
we in
here.
agreement now? Are you
Ms.
going to
Earle-Sears,
tell?
this is Ms. Spanberger's time. I have a follow-up question for Ms. Spanberger. Would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex? You have 30 seconds.
My priority would be to ensure that local communities, importantly parents and teachers and educators, are able to work together to meet the unique needs of each school and each community. And that is important. And I say that as a mother of 3 daughters in Virginia public schools.
Exactly.
And as someone who used to investigate crimes against children. The way that we keep our children safe is by ensuring they are safe in schools, which includes funding law enforcement and public safety.
But Ms. Spanberger, the question was, would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex? You have 15 seconds to clarify that question.
Yes.
And my answer is that in each local community, decisions should be made between parents and educators and teachers in each community. It shouldn't be dictated by politicians.
Please don't interrupt. We're coming to you next.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. Ms. Earle-Sears, you say that you do not support biological males identifying as females playing in girls' sports and have pledged to sign legislation restricting bathrooms by birth sex. Does this position discriminate against transgender girls? You have 60 seconds.
I'm not for discriminating against anyone. What I'm saying is just very plain common sense. And I'm going to answer the question my opponent refused to answer, which is simply this. I will not rescind the governor's executive order. We know that girls want to have privacy. It's really that simple. And my opponent will not answer the question because she voted for men nude in girls' locker rooms, in bathrooms, and in girls' sports. She will refuse to protect our girls in Title IX, which is simply, an opportunity for girls to have their safe space. This is not hard. Are you going to change in a gym where men are nude in the locker rooms? Are you going to do that, Abigail?
Ms. Earle-Sears.
I don't think you will. What about your girl children if they came home crying and said that there was a male in the locker room? What would you do?
You will both have a chance to rebut, too, so I want to make sure that you both understand that. Ms. Earle-Sears, a follow-up question now. You said in supporting that bathroom legislation that this is, quote, a safety issue.
It is.
Are transgender students a safety threat? Yes or no, and why? You have 30 seconds.
I'm sorry, how did you ask that?
Are transgender students a safety threat? Yes or no, and why? You have 30 seconds.
So we know that biological men are larger in strength than women. We understand this. This is biology. If you look at football teams, you can see the difference.
All right, so you know where Winsome stands for: parental rights, protecting children, respecting law enforcement, and defending the unborn. These aren't far-right ideas. These are common sense moral ideas. But because she refuses to bow down to leftist ideology, they call her every name in the book. And the same people who claim to be anti-racist are the first ones to tear down her who dares to think independently, especially, within her own kind, it seems to be like, as I looked around and looked at the comments and the sentiment of the people. So it's hypocrisy on steroids. And I'll say it plain. These folks don't want diversity of thought. They want obedience. And don't even get me started with Spanberger's cowardly answers. People are tired of this political theater and dancing around questions as if she was dancing around a landmine. On the bathroom bill, couldn't give a straight answer. On biological male, women's sports, crickets. On school choice, more word salad. Meanwhile, Winsome stood tall and said exactly what she believed. And she didn't apologize for it. That's leadership. That's conviction. The difference between them couldn't be clearer. One woman is guided by principles and the other one is guided by polls. And what really gets me is how the same Democrats screaming representation matters suddenly go mute when the representative doesn't fit their agenda. You have a strong, accomplished black woman, Marine veteran, business owner, family woman running for governor. Instead of celebrating her, they demonize her. Why? Because she's conservative. And because she loves God, she loves her country and believes in the Constitution. The left doesn't want real diversity. They want mascots. And Winsome refuses to play that role. And look, if you can't stand up against evil in your own party, you don't deserve to lead anything. And if you can't say murder is wrong without checking the political implications first, you don't deserve a single vote. If we reached a point in this country where political loyalty is replacing moral clarity and is poisoning everything, and Winsome Earle-Sears showed courage, Spanberger showed calculation, and the Virginia voters need to decide which one they're voting, where they want to run their state. So to my fellow Virginians, think carefully. This election isn't just about red versus blue. It's about right versus wrong. And Winsome is fighting for your children, your safety, your freedom, and the right to think for yourself. Spanberger, she's fighting for political convenience. And the choice couldn't be more obvious. Pray, think, and vote like your state depends on it, because it does. And I'm just going to leave it there because it's mind-blowing to me. And when it comes to the whole biological boys and girls bathroom, is mine. You don't want to admit that it's a problem because it was just a bunch of vague nonsense when it came from Spanberger, because she knows it's political suicide in Virginia, and you also don't want to accept or upset your radical base. So instead, you give the safety, mealy mouth answer about every community deciding itself. But that's not leadership. That's invasion, right? And the whole point of reality is, when Winsome brought up a scenario about the daughter going in with tears because she was forced to change clothes in front of a biological boy, that's not progress. That's predatory policy. And Spanberger, she couldn't even look the audience in the eye and say that's wrong when she has girls herself. And what makes it even worse is that we're not talking about some fringe issue. This affects every school, every locker room, every team, and the Democrats know it. They just don't care because protecting kids has taken back a backseat to protecting feelings. And look, when the comfort of one student starts to put dozens of others at risk emotionally or physically, you don't compromise the many to please the few, right? She mentioned Title IX, Winsome Earle-Sears, the very law that was passed to protect female athletes and create opportunities for women. Now, in the name of progress, the left wants to gut that protection and let men dominate women's sports while all pretending to somehow empowering. But you can't claim to support women if you're fine watching biological males take their scholarships, their records, and their dignity, all in the name of gender identity. You have to move away from gender identity politics. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I love you guys. I hope you guys got some value from this video. Let me know your thoughts, and let's just have a conversation as always.